Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the massive ship floating in the darkness ahead. It was bigger than anything he had ever seen before. The metal hull was black and twisted, like something had melted it, and then let it cool in weird shapes. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with a blue light that hurt his eyes to look at directly. "How old do you think it is?" Amy Rodriguez asked from the pilot seat. Her hands moved across the controls of their salvage ship, the Terra Nova, keeping them at a safe distance from the alien wreck. Chris Taylor looked up from his computer screen. Numbers and charts filled the display, showing energy readings that made no sense. The dating scans say it's been here for at least 10,000 years, maybe longer. I've never seen anything like these power signatures. Lisa Grant floated over to the main window, her medical scanner in hand. The radiation levels are weird too. It's not dangerous, but it's not normal either. Like the ship is still alive somehow. Jake pressed his face against the cold glass. The ship was easily a mile long and half a mile wide. It looked like a giant sea creature from Earth's oceans, with smooth curves and flowing lines. But it was, clearly made of metal and other materials he couldn't identify. "Any signs of life?" he asked. "Nothing on the scanners," Chris replied. "But the ship's power core is still active. That shouldn't be possible after all this time." Jake had been a salvage operator for 15 years. He had pulled valuable metals and technology from hundreds of wrecked ships across the galaxy, but he had never seen anything like this. Most alien ships were similar to human designs, functional and simple. This thing looked like art. "Can we dock with it?" Jake asked Amy. She studied her controls for a moment. "There's what looks like a docking port on the lower section. But Jake, I don't like this. That ship gives me the creeps." "Everything gives you the creeps," Jake said with a smile. "That's why you're such a good pilot. You keep us out of trouble, most of the time," Amy muttered. Lisa checked her equipment one more time. "I'm reading atmosphere inside parts of the ship. Oxygen levels are actually breathable for humans. The temperature is cold but not deadly." Chris frowned at his screen. "How is that possible? The ship's been in space for thousands of years. Any atmosphere should have leaked out long ago." "Only one way to find out," Jake said. He moved toward the equipment locker and began pulling out his environmental suit. "We're going aboard." "Jake, wait," Lisa said. "We should report this to the Galactic Council first. This could be important, maybe even dangerous." Jake paused with one leg in his suit. The Galactic Council was the government that ruled most of the galaxy. They had strict rules about finding alien technology, especially old alien technology. If Jake reported the ship, they would send their own teams to investigate. Jake and his crew would get a small finder's fee and nothing else. But if the ship contained valuable salvage, they could sell it on the open market and make enough money to retire. Jake was tired of scraping by, barely making enough to keep the Terra Nova running. "We'll take a quick look first," Jake said. "If we find anything really dangerous, we'll call it in. But right now, this is just a derelict ship in unclaimed space. Fair salvage." Amy sighed but began the docking procedure. "Fine, but if we all die, I'm blaming you." 20 minutes later, Jake and his crew floated through the alien ship's corridors. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing walls covered in the same strange symbols they had seen on the outside. The metal felt warm under Jake's gloved hands, as if the ship was generating heat somehow. "The construction is incredible," Chris whispered over the radio. "These walls are made from materials I don't recognize, and look at these joints. No welds, no seams. It's like the whole corridor was grown instead of built." They moved deeper into the ship, following what seemed to be a main hallway. The artificial gravity was still working, though it was lighter than Earth normal. Their boots made soft clicking sounds on the smooth floor. "Jake, you need to see this," Lisa called from up ahead. Jake rounded a corner and stopped. They had found what looked like a command center. The room was huge, with a high ceiling that disappeared into shadows above their lights. But what caught Jake's attention was the chair in the center. It wasn't really a chair. It was more like a throne made of the same flowing metal as the rest of the ship, and sitting in it was a skeleton. The bones were not human. The skull was too long and narrow, with eye sockets that were large and oval. The creature had been tall, maybe 8 feet, with arms that were longer than human proportions. But what was strangest was that the skeleton was perfectly preserved, as if the creature had died yesterday. "What do you think killed it?" Amy asked. Chris ran his scanner over the remains. No signs of violence, no broken bones or weapon damage. It's like it just sat down and died. Jake walked around the throne studying the alien remains. The creature wore what looked like a uniform made of a material that seemed to shift and change color in their lights. On the wall behind the throne, more of the glowing symbols pulsed in a steady rhythm. "It's like a heartbeat," Lisa observed. Jake was about to respond when something caught his eye. On a raised platform next to the throne sat a smaller chair, and on that chair was something that made his breath catch. It looked like a suit of armor, but unlike any armor Jake had ever seen. It was completely black and seemed to absorb their lights rather than reflect them. The surface rippled and moved slightly, as if it was liquid that was pretending to be solid. "Guys," Jake said slowly, "are you seeing this?" The suit was roughly human-sized, though it was hard to tell exactly because it seemed to shift and flow. It had no visible seams or joints, just smooth curves that suggested arms, legs, and a torso. Where the head would be, there was a smooth oval shape with no features. "Don't touch it," Lisa warned. "My scanner is going crazy. The suit is giving off the same energy signature as the ship's power core." But Jake was already moving closer. Something about the suit called to him. It was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, like staring at a sunset or a storm. As he got closer, the suit seemed to respond to his presence. The surface rippled faster, and the black color shifted to deep blue. "Jake, step back," Chris said urgently. "The energy readings are spiking." Jake reached out his hand. He told himself he was just going to touch it briefly, just to see what it felt like. But the moment his gloved finger made contact with the suit's surface, everything changed. The suit flowed up his arm like liquid faster than he could react. In seconds, it had covered his entire body, replacing his environmental suit completely. Jake tried to scream, but no sound came out. The suit was inside his mouth, his nose, everywhere. Then the pain hit. It felt like electricity and fire and ice all at the same time, running through every nerve in his body. Jake collapsed to the floor, his vision going black as his friends shouted his name. The last thing he heard before unconsciousness took him was the sound of his own heartbeat, impossibly loud, echoing through the alien ship like thunder. Jake woke up slowly, like swimming up from the bottom of a deep pool. His head felt heavy and his mouth tasted like metal. For a moment, he couldn't remember where he was or what had happened. Then the memories came flooding back. The alien ship, the skeleton on the throne, the black suit that had flowed over him like living water. Jake sat up quickly and looked around. He was in the medical bay of the Terra Nova, lying on the examination table. Lisa was sitting nearby, watching him with worried eyes. When she saw him move, she jumped up and grabbed her scanner. "Thank God you're awake," she said. "We thought we lost you." Jake tried to speak but only made a croaking sound. Lisa handed him a cup of water, and he drank it gratefully. The cool liquid felt strange going down his throat, as if his body was different somehow. "How long was I out?" Jake asked. 3 days, Lisa replied. "Your vital signs were so weak we could barely detect them, but they never stopped completely. It was like you were in some kind of deep sleep." Jake looked down at himself. He was wearing his normal clothes, but something felt wrong. His skin looked the same, but when he touched his arm, it felt harder somehow. Stronger. "The suit," Jake said suddenly. "What happened to the suit?" Lisa's face went pale. "Jake, the suit is still there. It's still on you." "What do you mean?" "I'm not wearing anything except my regular clothes." "Look closer," Lisa said. She held up a mirror. Jake stared at his reflection and gasped. At first glance, he looked normal, but when he focused, he could see thin black lines under his skin, like veins made of shadow. They pulsed gently with his heartbeat, too faint to notice unless you were really looking. "It merged with you," Lisa explained. "The suit somehow integrated with your body. I've never seen anything like it." Your cellular structure has changed. You're stronger, faster, and your reflexes are incredible. But Jake..." She paused and looked scared. "I don't know what else it might have done to you." Jake stood up and immediately noticed the difference. He felt like he could run for miles without getting tired. His vision was sharper, and he could hear the hum of the ship's engines much more clearly than before. "Where are Amy and Chris?" he asked. "On the bridge. We've been trying to figure out what to do. Jake, we need to talk about something else. We're not alone out here anymore." Jake followed Lisa to the bridge where Amy and Chris were studying the main display. When they saw Jake, both of them looked relieved, but also nervous. "How are you feeling?" Chris asked. "Different," Jake admitted. "But not bad different. What's this about not being alone?" Amy pointed to the screen. 2 hours ago, a Galactic Council ship dropped out of hyperspace about 1,000,000 miles away. They've been scanning us ever since. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Galactic Council was the government that ruled most of the known galaxy. They had strict laws about alien technology, especially dangerous alien technology. If they knew what Jake had done, it could mean prison or worse. "Have they tried to contact us?" Jake asked. "Not yet," Amy said, "but they're moving closer. At their current speed, they'll reach us in about 6 hours. Chris pulled up another screen showing the Council ship. It was sleek and white, about the same size as the Terra Nova, but obviously built for war. Jake could see weapon ports along its hull and sensor arrays that could scan a planet from orbit. "We could run," Amy suggested. "Jump to hyperspace before they get here." "And go where?" Chris asked. "Council ships are faster than us. They'd catch us eventually." Jake stared at the approaching ship and felt something strange happen. For just a moment, he could sense the ship's systems. He could feel its engines, its weapons, even the life signs of its crew. The sensation lasted only a second, but it was incredibly clear. "There are 43 people on that ship," Jake said without thinking. His friend stared at him. "How could you possibly know that?" Lisa asked. Jake touched his forehead, trying to understand what had just happened. "I don't know. I just felt it somehow." Before anyone could respond, the communication system buzzed. Amy accepted the incoming message, and the main screen filled with the image of an alien face. The creature looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird. Its skin was green and covered with small scales, and its eyes were large and yellow. When it spoke, its voice was deep and gravelly. "This is Commander HFY of the Galactic Council ship Judgment. You will prepare to be boarded immediately." Amy looked at Jake, then back at the screen. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the salvage vessel Terra Nova. We're conducting legal salvage operations in unclaimed space. By what authority are you boarding us?" "By the authority of Council Emergency Protocol 7, HFY replied. "We have detected forbidden technology on your vessel. You will submit to inspection and surrender any artifacts immediately." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. Emergency Protocol 7 was serious. It meant the Council thought they had found something that could threaten galactic security. "We haven't found any forbidden technology," Amy lied. "Just some old metal and broken computers." HFY's eyes narrowed. "Do not attempt to deceive me, human. Our sensors have detected an active architect energy signature. There is no mistaking it." The word architect hit Jake like a physical blow. Suddenly, images flashed through his mind. A great civilization building impossible technologies, wars that destroyed entire star systems, and suits like the one he wore, turning their wearers into unstoppable weapons of destruction. The images weren't his memories. They were coming from the suit. "I know what you have found," HFY continued. "And I know what it has done to one of you. The infected human must surrender immediately for immediate termination. This is not negotiable." "Termination?" Lisa said. "You want to kill him?" "The architect death suits cannot be allowed to exist," HFY said firmly. "They are weapons of mass destruction. Anyone who bonds with one becomes a threat to all life in the galaxy. We have standing orders to destroy them on sight." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, and with it came power. The black lines under his skin began to glow faintly. He could feel the suit responding to his emotions, ready to protect him. "You're not killing anyone," Amy said, cutting the communication. Amy, what are you doing? Chris asked frantically. Buying us time, she replied, her hands flying over the controls. Jake, whatever that thing did to you, can it help us fight them? Jake closed his eyes and reached out with the strange new sense the suit had given him. He could feel the council ship's systems clearly now. Its weapons were charging, and its engines were pushing it toward them at maximum speed. They're not here to arrest us, Jake said quietly. They're here to destroy us. All of us. What do we do? Lisa asked. Jake stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. The suit was fully awake now, feeding him information about the approaching ship's weaknesses and weapon systems. He could disable it without killing anyone, but he would have to act fast. Get us out of here, Jake said. I'll handle the council. Ship. Jake, you can't fight a warship by yourself, Chris protested. Jake looked at his friends and smiled. For the first time since putting on the suit, he felt truly alive. Watch me, he said. The suit flowed over his body like liquid shadow, and Jake Morrison prepared for his first real test as something more than human. The black suit flowed over Jake's body like living water, covering him from head to toe in seconds. Where his regular clothes had been, now there was smooth armor that seemed to absorb light itself. Jake felt power rushing through his veins, and suddenly he could sense everything around him with perfect clarity. Jake, your life signs just spiked off the charts, Lisa said, staring at her medical scanner in shock. Jake turned to look at his friends, and they all took a step back. Where his face should have been, there was now a smooth black surface with no features. But when he spoke, his voice came through clearly. I can see their ship, Jake said. Every system, every weapon, every person on board. The suit is showing me how to disable them without killing anyone. Amy's hands shook as she prepared the Terra Nova for emergency jump to hyperspace. Jake, you're scaring me. That thing has changed you. I'm still me, Jake said, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. The suit was feeding him information and abilities that felt both foreign and familiar. But I can protect us. Trust me. The council ship judgment appeared on their main screen, growing larger as it approached. Jake could see weapon ports opening along its hull, preparing to fire. In his enhanced vision, he could also see the 43 crew members inside, including Commander Zefkai on the bridge. They're charging weapons, Chris reported. Some kind of energy cannon that could cut us in half. Amy, take us out of here, Jake said. I'll follow you. What do you mean follow us? Amy asked. Jake, you can't survive in space. Jake walked to the airlock. Yes, I can. The suit will protect me. Just get to safe distance and wait for me. Before anyone could stop him, Jake opened the inner airlock door and stepped inside. Lisa ran after him, grabbing his arm. Jake, please don't do this. We don't know what that suit will do to you. Jake looked at her through the smooth black mask that covered his face. I know you're scared, I'm scared too, but if I don't stop them, they'll destroy us all. And then they'll go to Earth and do the same thing to everyone there. Lisa let go of his arm. Come back to us, okay? Don't let that thing turn you into something else. I won't, Jake promised. He sealed the inner door and opened the outer airlock. Space rushed in, but the suit protected him completely. Jake pushed, off from the Terra Nova, and flew toward the council ship using some kind of propulsion system built into the suit. He could breathe normally, and the cold vacuum of space felt no different than room temperature. The Judgment opened fire just as the Terra Nova jumped to hyperspace. Bright energy beams cut through the space where Jake's ship had been moments before. Now it was just Jake alone against a warship. He flew directly at the council ship's main weapon, moving faster than any human should be able to survive. The suit somehow protected him from the crushing acceleration. When the Judgment fired at him, Jake twisted through space like a dancer, avoiding every shot. Jake landed on the ship's hull with a soft thud that he felt through the suit. Immediately, he could sense the ship's internal systems. The suit showed him exactly where to place his hands to disrupt the weapon systems without damaging life support. He pressed his palms against the metal hull, and black energy flowed from the suit into the ship's systems. One by one, the Judgment's weapons went offline. The engines stuttered and stopped. Emergency lights began flashing throughout the ship as non-essential systems shut down. Jake found an airlock and somehow convinced it to open for him. The suit seemed to speak the same language as alien technology. He walked through the corridors of the council ship and crew members fled when they saw him coming. Commander HFY was waiting on the bridge with 6 armed guards. Their weapons were already pointed at Jake when he walked through the door. "Stay back, abomination," HFY hissed. "I know what you are. I know what that suit will turn you into." "Then you know I could kill all of you right now if I wanted to," Jake said calmly. "But I don't want to. I just want you to leave us alone." "That is impossible. The death suits must be destroyed. It is galactic law." One of the guards fired his armor weapon at Jake. The energy beam hit him in the chest and had no effect at all. The suit absorbed the attack completely. Jake didn't even feel it. "Your weapons can't hurt me," Jake said. "But I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to tell you something important." Jake walked closer and the guards backed away in fear. Even HFY looked nervous now. "The suit isn't controlling me," Jake continued. "I'm still human. I can still think and choose for myself. That's not supposed to be possible, is it?" HFY's yellow eyes widened. "No. The death suits kill their hosts within minutes. They harvest the neural patterns and create mindless killing machines. But you have been bonded for days." "The suit was made by a race called the Architects," Jake said, letting the knowledge flow through him. "They created it as a weapon, but something went wrong. The suits became too powerful and destroyed their creators. But humans are different. We can survive the bonding process." "That makes you even more dangerous," HFY said. Jake shook his head. "No, it makes us the solution. The Architects didn't destroy themselves by accident. They were fighting something that's coming back." Suddenly, Jake's vision filled with images from the suit's memory. He saw vast fleets of mechanical ships moving between galaxies. He saw a world stripped bare of all life, reduced to empty metal husks. He saw the Architects' final desperate battle against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. "The Devourers," Jake said quietly. "They're machines from another galaxy. They consume everything living and turn it into more of themselves. The Architects created the death suits to fight them, but the suits weren't ready in time." HFY lowered his weapon slightly. "You are saying the suits were meant to be protectors, not destroyers?" "Yes. But only humans can use them properly. Only we can survive the bonding and keep our minds intact." Jake accessed the ship's communication system through the suit, somehow connecting directly to the ship's computers. He sent out a signal on all frequencies, broadcasting what he had learned about the Devourers and their approaching fleets. "Check your long-range sensors," Jake told HFY. "Look at the edge of the galaxy. They're already here." The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. Within minutes they had confirmation. Strange ships were detected at the galaxy's rim, moving inward toward inhabited systems. "By the ancient codes," HFY whispered. "The readings match historical records of the Devourer fleets." Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The suit was just the beginning. If humanity was going to protect the galaxy, they would need more than one person in an alien death suit. "I'm going back to my friends now," Jake said. "You can try to stop me or you can help me prepare for what's coming. But either way, I'm not going to let those things destroy everything we care about." He walked back toward the airlock, leaving the council crew standing in stunned silence. Commander HFY called after him. "Human, if what you say is true, if your species can truly control the death suits, then everything changes. The council will need to reconsider its position." Jake paused at the doorway. "My name is Jake Morrison, and yes, everything is about to change." He stepped into space and flew back toward where the Terra Nova waited for him, carrying the weight of the galaxy's future on his shoulders. Jake floated back to the Terra Nova, the black suit still covering his body like a second skin. As he approached the airlock, he could see his friends watching him through the observation window. Amy, Chris, and Lisa all looked worried and scared. Jake couldn't blame them. He probably looked like something from their worst nightmares. The suit retracted from his face as he entered the airlock, revealing his normal human features underneath. But Jake could feel that he was different now. The power was still there, flowing through his body like electricity in his veins. "Are you okay?" Lisa asked as soon as he stepped onto the bridge. "I'm fine," Jake said. "Better than fine, actually. The council ship won't bother us anymore, but we have bigger problems." Chris was studying the long-range sensors. "Jake, you need to see this. After you sent out that signal, we started getting responses from all over the galaxy. The readings are incredible." Jake looked at the display screen. Dozens of red dots were appearing at the edge of the galaxy, moving slowly inward toward the populated systems. Each dot represented a ship larger than anything the Galactic Council had ever built. "The Devourers," Jake said quietly. "They're really coming." Amy turned the Terra Nova toward a nearby star system called Haven, where they could refuel and figure out their next move. As they traveled through hyperspace, Jake told his friends everything the suit had shown him about the ancient war between the architects and the machine invaders. "So the suits were meant to be weapons against these devourer things?" Chris asked. "Not just weapons," Jake explained. "The suits learn and adapt. Every time they face a new threat, they become better at dealing with it. But the architects couldn't survive the bonding process. The suits killed them before they could be used properly." "But humans can survive it," Lisa said. "Why are we different?" Jake touched the black lines that were still visible under his skin. "I think it's because we're stubborn. We don't give up easily. The suit tried to take control of my mind, but I fought back. Most species would have let it happen." When they arrived at Haven Station, Jake was surprised to find that word of his encounter with the council ship had already spread. The station's commander, a human woman named Captain Kelly Brooks, was waiting for them at the docking bay. "Mr. Morrison," she said as they disembarked, "I've been ordered by Earth Command to escort you to the nearest council facility for debriefing." "I'm not going anywhere with the council," Jake said. "They want to kill me, remember?" Captain Brooks shook her head. "Things have changed. When your signal reached Earth, it caused quite a stir. The President herself has been in contact with the council leadership. They want to talk, not fight." Jake didn't trust it, but he agreed to meet with the council representatives via video communication. What he saw surprised him. Instead of the usual council chamber filled with alien leaders, there was only Commander HFY and an elderly human man in a military uniform. "Mr. Morrison," the human said, "I'm Admiral Frank Carter, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. We need your help." "What kind of help?" Jake asked. HFY leaned forward on the screen. "The Devourer fleets are larger than we initially thought. Our best estimates suggest they have over 10,000 ships, each one capable of destroying entire planets. The combined forces of all council races would not be enough to stop them. But humans with death suits might be," Admiral Carter added. "If what you've shown us is true, if humans can actually control these weapons, then we need to find more of them." Jake felt his heart racing. "You want to create more people like me?" "The architects didn't just leave one suit on that derelict ship," HFY explained. "Our archaeological teams have been searching for them for centuries, destroying any we found. But now we've located 17 more suits in various locations across the galaxy. 17 people with my abilities," Jake said slowly. "That might be enough to make a difference." Admiral Carter nodded. "We're calling it Project Guardian. Volunteers from Earth's military will attempt to bond with the remaining suits, but we need you to help train them, assuming they survive the process." Over the next few weeks, Jake found himself at the center of the galaxy's most important military project. The Terra Nova was upgraded with the best equipment the Council could provide, and Jake's crew became his support team as they traveled from world to world, retrieving the hidden death suits. The first volunteer was a Marine sergeant named Tony Walsh. Jake watched nervously as Tony approached the second suit they had found on a dead world called Terminus. Like Jake's suit, this one was black and seemed to move like living liquid. "Remember what I told you," Jake said over the radio. "Don't try to control it at first. Let it bond with you, but don't give up your sense of self. Fight to stay human." Tony nodded and touched the suit. It flowed over him just as Jake's had done, and Tony collapsed screaming. Jake felt helpless as he watched his friend writhe on the ground in agony. The bonding process took 3 hours, much longer than Jake's had, but when Tony finally stood up, he was still Tony. The suit had integrated with his body, but his mind remained his own. Jake felt a surge of hope. Humans really could survive the bonding process. The next volunteer was a fighter pilot named Karen Stone. She bonded with a suit they found in an underwater facility on an ocean world. Like Tony, she survived, though the process left her changed in ways they were still trying to understand. By the time they had recovered 12 suits, Jake realized that each bonding was slightly different. Some humans adapted better than others. A few volunteers didn't survive at all, despite Jake's best efforts to help them. The successful candidates formed the core of what became known as the Guardian Corps. Jake trained them in combat techniques. The suits had taught him, while Lisa and Chris studied the medical and technological aspects of the bonding process. But as they worked, the Devourer fleets kept moving closer to inhabited space. The first contact came when a Devourer scout ship encountered a Council patrol near the rim of the galaxy. The patrol ships were destroyed instantly, but not before sending back crucial information. The Devourers were not just machines. They were something far worse. They consumed living beings and used their biological material to create hybrid creatures that were part machine, part organic. Every world they conquered gave them more resources to build even larger fleets. Jake stood on the bridge of the Terra Nova, now serving as the flagship of the Guardian Corps, and watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Panic was spreading as news of the approaching invasion reached every inhabited world. "How much time do we have?" Amy asked. Chris checked his calculations one more time. At their current speed, the main Devourer fleet will reach the outer colonies in about 2 months. The inner worlds, including Earth, have maybe 6 months. Jake looked at his small team of suit-bonded humans. 12 people against 10,000 enemy ships. The odds were impossible, but Jake had learned that humans specialized in doing impossible things. "Then we better get ready," Jake said. "It's time to show the galaxy what humans can do when we're properly motivated." The war for the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity would either prove itself worthy of the architect's legacy or die trying. The final battle began at the edge of the galaxy, in a region of space where no stars shone and only darkness waited. Jake stood on the bridge of the Terra Nova, watching the Devourer fleet approach on the main screen. 10,000 ships moved, in perfect formation, each one larger than a city and bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. The combined forces of the Galactic Council waited to meet them. Ships from 100 different worlds had come together for this fight. Humans, aliens, and artificial intelligences all stood side by side, knowing that if they failed here, everything they loved would be destroyed. But the real weapons in this battle were not the ships. They were the 12 humans wearing alien death suits floating in space between the two fleets like tiny black stars. "Guardian Corps, report in," Jake said over the communication system. "Tony here. Suit systems are green, ready for action." Karen reporting. "All weapons powered and ready." One by one, the other Guardians checked in. Pete Johnson, the engineer. Sarah Kim, the doctor. Marcus Webb, the teacher who had volunteered when his hometown was threatened. Each of them had survived the bonding process and learned to control powers that could reshape matter itself. Jake felt the familiar weight of responsibility on his shoulders. These people had trusted him to lead them into a battle they might not survive. But he also felt something else. Pride. Humans had taken weapons designed to destroy and turned them into tools of protection. Admiral Carter's voice came over the radio from the command ship. "Guardian Corps, you are clear to engage. Good luck, and give them hell." Jake activated his suit's full combat mode. The black armor flowed over his body, and suddenly he could sense every ship in both fleets. The suits had learned from each battle, adapting and growing stronger. Now they were ready for their ultimate test. The Devourer fleet opened fire first. Beams of pure energy lanced across space, striking the Council ships. But the Guardians were already moving. Jake led them in a dive toward the nearest enemy vessel, weaving between the deadly energy beams like dancers in a deadly ballet. The Devourer ships were even more horrible up close. They were not built, but grown. Organic components twisted together with mechanical parts, creating vessels that looked like diseased metal creatures. Jake could sense the life forms trapped inside, beings from conquered worlds who had been turned into living components of the enemy war machine. "Remember the plan," Jake said as they approached the lead ship. "We're not here to destroy them all, we just need to cut off their command structure." The Guardians split into 3 groups. Tony and Karen led one team to attack the ship's engines. Pete and Sarah went after the weapon systems. Jake took the remaining Guardians straight toward the bridge where the Devourer commanders would be. Jake crashed through the hull of the enemy ship like a bullet through paper. The suit protected him from the vacuum of space and the twisted metal that tried to grab him as he passed. Inside the ship, the corridors were filled with a sickly green light and the sound of machinery that seemed almost alive. The Devourers themselves were worse than Jake had imagined. They looked like spiders made of metal and bone with too many arms and eyes that glowed with artificial intelligence. When they saw Jake coming, they opened fire with weapons that shot acid and electricity. But the suit made Jake faster than any living thing had a right to be. He dodged their attacks and struck back with energy blasts that tore through their mechanical bodies. Each step forward brought him closer to the ship's command center. Behind him, he could hear the other Guardians fighting their own battles. The suit let him sense their locations and status. Tony had reached the engine room and was systematically destroying the power systems. Karen was dogfighting with enemy interceptors in space, her suit allowing her to fly and maneuver like a fighter craft. Jake reached the bridge of the Devourer command ship and found something that made him stop in shock. The ship's commander was not a machine or an alien creature. It was human. The man looked like he might have been in his 40s when he was captured, but now metal parts had been grafted onto his body and wires ran through his skull. His eyes still held a spark of human intelligence, but it was trapped behind layers of alien programming. "Please," the man whispered when he saw Jake. "Kill me. Don't let them use me anymore." Jake felt rage building in his chest. The Devourers didn't just destroy civilizations. They turned the survivors into weapons against their own kind. He placed his hand on the ship's main computer and let the suit's power flow into it. Instead of destroying the system, Jake did something the Devourers had never expected. He freed it. The suit's adaptive programming spread through the ship's network, breaking the control codes that held the captured beings in slavery. All across the Devourer fleet, the same thing began happening. The other Guardians had reached their targets and were spreading the liberation virus through the enemy ships. Beings that had been enslaved for centuries suddenly found themselves free to act. The result was chaos in the Devourer ranks. Ships turned on each other as freed captives fought their mechanical oppressors. The perfect formation of the invasion fleet broke apart as vessels spun out of control or changed sides entirely. Jake grabbed the human commander and activated his suit's life support systems, keeping the man alive despite his extensive mechanical modifications. "What's your name?" Jake asked. "David," the man gasped. "David Chen. I was from Earth Colony Epsilon. They took us 15 years ago." "Well, David, you're free now, and so is everyone else." The battle raged for 6 more hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt once the Guardians had broken the Devourer's control systems. The enemy fleet tore itself apart from within, while the Council forces mopped up the remaining hostile vessels. When it was over, Jake floated in space among the wreckage, feeling exhausted but victorious. The suit had protected him through the entire battle, but he could sense that it was changing again. The experience of freeing so many enslaved beings had taught it something new about its purpose. "Guardian Corps, sound off," Jake said. All 12 Guardians reported in. They had all survived, though several were injured. More importantly, they had freed thousands of beings from Devourer control, adding their ships and knowledge to the Council forces. But Jake knew this was not the end. The Devourers would return eventually, in greater numbers and with new strategies. When they did, humanity would be ready. As the Terra Nova picked him up from space, Jake thought about how much had changed since he first found the alien suit. He had been a simple salvage operator looking for scrap metal to sell. Now he was the leader of a force that protected the entire galaxy. The suit retracted from his body as he entered the airlock, but Jake could still feel its presence in his mind. It would always be part of him now, just as he had become part of something larger than himself. Amy was waiting for him in the docking bay, tears in her eyes. "Welcome back," she said. Jake smiled and hugged his friend. "It's good to be home." Outside the ship, the stars shone brighter than before. The galaxy was safe, at least for now. And somewhere out there, other humans were learning to wear the alien death suits, preparing for whatever threats might come next. The architects had created their weapons to destroy, but humanity had taught them to protect instead. It was, Jake thought, a very human thing to do.